What if I told you that most beginner salespeople fail before they even say a word to a customer? The truth is, sales isn't about being persuasive, manipulative, or naturally talented. In fact, some of the world's best salespeople started out shy, awkward, and terrible at selling. But they mastered 11 fundamental skills that separate top performers from everyone else. Today, you're going to learn those 11 skills, and by the end of this video, you'll know more about selling than most beginners ever do.
Okay, let's take a quick look at our agenda. First, we're decoding the buyer's mind. 2, crafting your core message. 3, earning trust and pitching. 4, overcoming resistance and closing. And 5, the top performer's flywheel. Now, I really want you to stick with me until the very end of this explainer, because that 5th section covers daily habits that literally act as a multiplier. They amplify the effectiveness of every single other skill we're going to talk about today.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Decoding the Buyer's Mind. This right here is the absolute foundation of selling.
Most beginners assume that selling starts with a pitch. But actually, professional selling starts with observation. It's about research, way before you ever bring up your product. Selling at its core is simply the process of helping another guy solve a problem in exchange for money. It's not some magic trick, it's guidance. And to guide a man to the right decision, you have to decode what is actually driving him. Beginners struggle massively with this because they completely confuse needs with wants. A need is an urgent problem. A want is just a nice-to-have preference. Take Mark, for example. He's a small business owner. Mark desperately needs accounting software because he's tracking all his finances on scrap paper and he keeps missing major tax deadlines. That is a need. It screams urgency. Now, Mark might also want software that has a really sleek dark mode interface. That's a want. Top-tier professionals target the underlying need first because urgency is what actually moves people to buy. If you just sell Mark on the pretty interface, you're rarely going to close the deal.
Let's look at a really detailed case study to show you what I mean. A guy walks into a mattress store. He looks at the salesman and says, "I just want something firm." To a rookie, that's it. Discovery phase over. They walk him straight to the hardest slab of foam in the store. But a pro asks a few simple questions. And by doing that, he uncovers that this man has actually been waking up with severe lower back pain for months. The real pain point is the back pain. His motivation to buy isn't getting a firm piece of foam. It's getting relief. It's getting a full night's sleep. So the professional salesman recommends a supportive, medium-firm mattress specifically designed for back support, directly connecting the product to the man's physical pain. You have to ask questions before you pitch. Uncover the real pain.
Moving right along into Module 2, here's a quote to anchor us. Confidence is built through practice and preparation, not inherited as a personality trait. But here's where most beginners get it wrong. They completely conflate arrogance with confidence. And because of that, they just crumble under the pressure of rejection. Listen, rejection is not a referendum on your worth as a man. It's really not. It is just routine data about timing, budget, or fit. When a prospect says no, treating it as an experiment reduces your anxiety and totally transforms your performance.
Let's break down that crucial difference. Arrogance is entirely self-focused. Confidence? That's customer-focused. Picture a new salesman being asked a super complex pricing question by a CEO, and he doesn't know the answer. An arrogant rookie will panic, guess, and end up sounding incredibly shaky, all because he's trying to protect his own ego. A confident pro, though? He's calm. He's honest. He'll look the guy in the eye and say, "That's a great question. Let me get you the exact number rather than guess. I'll have it in your inbox within the hour." The customer respects and trusts the confident guy way more. Now, here's a highly practical step you can use to build this kind of rock-solid confidence. Take out your phone and record your own voice explaining your product. Listen back. Then, re-record it 3 times, deliberately slowing your speaking pace by 20% each time. It forces you to eliminate those awkward filler words, and it works absolute wonders.
Now, this next skill changes everything. Welcome to Module 3, Active Listening. Honestly, this is the most underrated skill in sales. Beginners just talk way too much. And when they aren't talking, they commit the ultimate sales sin, reload listening. Have you ever done this? Reload listening is when a beginner looks like he's paying attention, but in his head, he's just waiting for his turn to speak. He's mentally reloading and rehearsing his next pitch point instead of actually processing the words the customer is saying to him.
So how do we fix this? By mastering active listening. Talk less. Ask open-ended questions. Pause for 2 full seconds. Reflect the customer's language. Let's look at another case study. A prospect is evaluating a new project management tool. He tells the salesman, Man, we've tried a couple of tools, but it is just a headache keeping everyone on the same page. A weak listener instantly jumps in and pitches his tool's collaboration features. But a strong listener? He reflects and digs deeper. He moves from broad to specific. He pauses for 2 seconds and then asks, "That sounds incredibly frustrating. Tell me more about where things break down. Is it more about day-to-day communication or guys not seeing the same version of a document?" By using that 2-second pause and asking a specific question, the true pain point naturally surfaces before a pitch is ever made.
All right, let's shift gears and move to Section 2, crafting your core message, and exactly how to make sure you are understood. This covers Module 4. And I've got a surprising fact for you. Even the absolute greatest, most empathetic listeners on the planet will lose deals if their communication is cluttered with abstract jargon. Listening tells you what to say, but effective communication is how you say it. Look at this comparison. On one hand, you have abstract jargon. Our platform leverages advanced synergistic workflows to optimize operational efficiency. To a non-technical business owner, that means absolutely nothing. It's just noise. Instead, try the 12-year-old test. Use concrete, measurable language. Our tool cuts the time your team spends on manual data entry by about half. It's the exact same fact, but dramatically more persuasive. And remember, when you're selling over the phone, your tone of voice becomes your primary non-verbal communication channel. If you literally just smile while speaking, it measurably changes how your voice sounds to the man on the other end of the line. It projects warmth and confidence.
Most people completely miss this next distinction, which brings us to Module 5, Product Knowledge. What is the difference between a feature and a benefit? Well, a feature is a fact. A benefit is what that fact actually means for the customer. Beginners just rattle off a list of technical specs and lazily assume the customer will calculate the value themselves in their own head. But here's the reality check. Customers do not buy specifications, they buy outcomes.
Let me give you a practical implementation step you can start using today. Use the magic phrase, "which means." Let's look at a case study of a team leader managing a remote construction crew. If he asks you about your software's mobile app, you don't just say, "Yes, we have a mobile app." No, you connect it. You say, "Yes, and since you mentioned your guys are spread across different time zones on job sites, the mobile app lets anyone approve a task the moment they're free, which means you won't lose half a day waiting on a guy to get back to his desk." Boom. You instantly translate a basic feature into hours of time saved for that specific man.
Moving right into Section 3, Earning Trust and Pitching, where we really focus on connecting value to those core needs.
This section captures Modules 6 and 7. There is this massive misconception out there that earning trust means you have to become a prospect's best friend. You really don't. Trust is built through proactive honesty and small, consistent acts of follow-through. If you tell a prospect you'll send him an email by 2 p.m., having it in his inbox at 1:55 p.m. builds deep, undeniable professional credibility. And that leads directly into how you present your solution. Beginners make a massive deal-killing mistake here. They present unrequested benefits. They'll walk a customer through a giant laundry list of features that the guy has zero interest in just because it's part of some generic script. If a customer tells you he only cares about delivery speed, your entire presentation must center around delivery speed. Are you presenting what you love or what the customer actually needs? Let's look at the golden rules for presenting solutions. Never present unrequested benefits. Use relatable stories. Rely on live demos. And anchor everything with concrete numbers. Consider David. David is an HR director who is really struggling with onboarding. His new hires take 3 full weeks to get set up. A professional salesman doesn't give David a generic 45-minute tour of the software. Instead, he tailors it specifically to David's pain. He says, "David, you mentioned your new hires take 3 weeks. Let me show you exactly how Steven, another HR director in your exact position, got his onboarding down to 4 days using this specific dashboard." You make the future totally believable by showing, not just telling.
And what happens next surprises most beginners. We're now diving into Section 4, Overcoming Resistance, and closing, Guiding the Decision.
This covers Modules 8 and 9. Look, pushback is inevitable. It's going to happen. But beginners get absolutely terrified of objections. They view them as personal attacks. We need to fundamentally reframe how you look at objections. An objection is not a personal rejection. It is simply a request for more information. So how do we handle them smoothly? With a simple 3-step framework. Acknowledge, clarify, and respond. When a prospect pushes back on price, the common beginner trap is to immediately get defensive and start arguing. Do not do that. First, acknowledge. I completely understand budget is always a primary concern. Second, clarify. Just to make sure I understand, is the concern about the upfront cost today or the long-term return on the investment? Third, respond with targeted information. This keeps the entire conversation collaborative, not combative.
Which naturally brings us to the close. Closing is heavily, heavily misunderstood. It is not some separate set of manipulative, high-pressure tricks bolted onto the end of a pitch. It's just the natural conclusion of a conversation where you fully understood a man's needs and demonstrated clear value. True professionals don't force a close. They look for buying signals. When the prospect starts using future tense language like, "So, once we have this set up," or he starts asking detailed logistics questions about contracts and implementation, he is ready.
When you see those buying signals, you use the direct close. You simply ask, "Would you like to move forward with this?" And here's the absolute necessity. You must then pause for 3 full seconds of absolute silence. Do not fill the space. You must give the customer the time, space, and respect to process the question and verbalize his own decision. Just breathe and wait.
This becomes even more powerful when combined with the next skill. Welcome to the final section, the Top Performers Flywheel, covering long-term habits for success.
This covers modules 10 and 11. It is a tragic fact that far more deals die from beginner neglect than from competitor wins. Beginners will have a great conversation and then they just stop. Following up is where the real money is made. Beginners fear they're being annoying, but you have to realize that you are often dealing with incredibly busy business owners who genuinely want to buy your solution, but they are just buried under competing priorities and daily fires they have to put out. A specific, non-generic follow-up, like sending over a case study you both discussed, provides much-needed structure for them. It's not pressure, it's a helpful reminder of an action they already decided they wanted to take.
And finally, the daily habits. Top performers compound all these skills by aggressively prioritizing. They block out time for their absolute highest value activities, like making prospect calls first thing in the morning, way before email or busy work consumes their energy. They continuously learn by reviewing their own call recordings, and they relentlessly track their performance numbers on spreadsheets so they know exactly where their deals are falling through. It's a system.
We've covered incredible ground today in this explainer. And remember, if you master these 11 fundamentals, you'll already be ahead of the majority of beginner salespeople. Sales isn't about tricks. It's about understanding people, solving problems, and communicating value. Master these basics first, and everything else becomes easier.
To really make this stick, here is your 30-day action plan, extracted straight from the curriculum. First, record yourself and actively work to reduce your filler words. Second, practice pausing for 2 seconds to build those active listening muscles. Third, go write out your product's features and attach a which means benefit statement to every single one of them. And finally, build a simple tracking sheet for your daily activities. Sales is a completely learnable, repeatable process. Apply these tools consistently every single day, and you will see your confidence and your results absolutely skyrocket. So I want you to look at your calendar right now. Which of these 11 habits are you going to implement before your very next pitch?